This is Commissioner Scar. Today is Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, and we'll call this meeting to order at 8 a.m. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute yourself when called to speak, again pressing star 6. It is very important for all others to remain muted. Thank you. Okay, we will get started with our Board of Commissioners roll call. Commissioner Bell, are you with us today?
Good morning, I'm here.
Awesome. And Commissioner Yamamoto, are you with us today?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Okay, we will get started. We do not have Adventist Health with us today. Eric was unavailable. So we will move on to that quick moment I always take for the Coastal Caucus, just in case any of them were able to join us today. Okay, not hearing anyone. The Tillamook County Community Health Center is also not available today. So we will move into the Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy. Gail, are you with us this morning?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I think I missed last week, so I want to just take a moment and say good morning. And it appears as though the bond measure election results preliminary indicate the Health District's bond measure passed. We're grateful to our North County community for their strong support and those in Tillamook County for supporting local health care. And just another brief announcement, our outreach team is coordinating with the City of Tillamook and other community partners to hold a bilingual resource fair during one of the city's summer movie nights in June at Goodspeed Park. We're working with the City of Tillamook's Public Works team to pin down just a few final details, but watch for more information on this event soon. And just another reminder, we are here to serve you. If you're interested in scheduling an appointment with one of our medical providers, including behavioral health providers, give us a call, 800-368-5182 for more information. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gail. And that's very exciting about the healthcare bond. Could you take just a second and let listeners who may not have been, may not be North County listeners know just a hair about what that bond will do for our county?
Yes, of course. There's actually a number of initiatives. One is to help fund the building of a new health center. Another is to take care of some needed renovations to the Nehalem Valley Care Center. And finally, to help prepare this site up here in Wheeler for the potential of housing in the near future.
Thank you so much. That is all extremely exciting. I think that, I think the new healthcare facility, and if I understand correctly, that will be right there in Wheeler on 101, where that big flat open space is that we've all looked at for many years, which will be wonderful. You'll have more space. Will that bring the pharmacy together with the health center?
Yes, the pharmacy will remain as part of the health center with a much larger space, and we're very excited about that as well.
Excellent. So I think that is all amazing stuff. And then, of course, the renovations to the Nehalem Valley Care Center are more important now than ever. We've lost a number of our senior care facilities during the pandemic, and having the Nehalem Valley Care Center still be here with us at providing vital service is so important. And that building is just in need of some renovation. So I think that will serve our community long term in some exceptional ways. And of course, preparing for housing, we all know that we are building housing as fast as we can, but finding appropriate locations and partners is tricky. And so we're very excited that the Health District will be a part of that solution into the future.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more.
So thank you, and thank you to the voters of North County for seeing into the future and making that vital investment. So thank you for indulging me there for a minute. Any other questions for Gail before we let her off the hot seat? Okay, not hearing any. Thank you, Gail. We will move on to Tillamook Family Counseling. Frank, are you with us this morning?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is Frank Williams, Director of Tillamook Family Counseling Center, Behavioral Health Services for Tillamook County residents. You can reach us for information regarding appointments, information about any of the services that we provide by calling 503-842-8201 or 1-800-962-2851. I'd like to share congratulations to our North County partners on the passage of the bond measure, and it was nice to hear all the information. And second, I wanted to just share over the past few weeks, we have, in our partnership with the Willard Apartments, which are very quickly finishing up, we have been able to work very closely with them, and we'll be able to have five of our Tillamook Family Counseling Center clients be able to have a spot at the Willard Apartments. So we've been, I was just talking with one of the staff just this morning about the application process and the information that we're finding out, and very pleased with the partnership with the Key Property Management, and that has gone really well, and the process of getting folks ready for that has been very smooth, very transparent, and we're looking forward to being able to have a few of our clients in that Willard Apartment. So just thought I'd share that, and to share that process has gone very smoothly. So looking forward to that. I believe it's the end of June that is slated as being the time for the opening. So thought I'd share that information. And if there's any other questions that anyone may have, I'll be glad to take their questions.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that. I was part of a group, I think it's been 2 weeks ago now, that had the opportunity to take a quick tour of the Willard Apartments. They're not quite complete yet, but they will be, the grand opening will be on June 29th at 2 p.m. There will be a ribbon cutting and an opening, and it's just very exciting to have those 46 units coming online. There are 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, I believe, in the complex, and they're really very beautiful. So I hope that people will take a gander on the 29th when that opening happens. We are excited to continue to have, as we said previously, housing being built, and this is our next one to open. So lots of good stuff. So thank you, Frank. I'm excited that you will have the 5 units there. I think that, there's a type of housing called permanent supportive housing that you hear about in larger metro areas, where they build an entire building for folks who may need some additional supports in their housing. And in Tillamook County, we don't have a building for permanent supportive housing. What we have been fortunate enough to do is that in many of these new housing complexes that are coming online, we're able to get, as Frank stated, 5 units that the individuals will have some additional support for being housed and staying housed and getting their needs met. So it's a great way in a small rural community to still provide for much needed supportive housing without having an entire complex. So I'm excited to have that come to fruition as well. But thank you, Frank. Appreciate you highlighting that. Okay, any questions for Frank? All right, not hearing any, we will move on to the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Brown, are you with us this morning? Okay, don't see him, so I know we're moving quickly. If I see him pop on later, we'll circle back. Emergency Management, Randy Thorpe.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
The news for this week is today the Oregon Department of Human Services will be conducting their evacuation point seminar here at the Tillamook Airfield location. And this is in conjunction with the 2 containers of equipment and material that they placed here last month. They'll be doing basically a high-level overview of deployment, the running operation of the assembly point kit, and we'll be setting up some training for the county to be developed for later on this summer. So hopefully we'll get some great training going on how to utilize this great equipment that the state has placed here in the county. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Randy. That is exciting. I can't wait to hear about everything that's in those Connex boxes and what they will do for our community in the time of a crisis. So that's super exciting. Unfortunately, I can't be there, so I'll have to hear from you. Maybe on our next call, you can talk more about what all happens today.
You bet. I'll be happy to.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, any questions for Randy? Hearing none, we will move on to the Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Bell, would you like to kick us off?
You bet. Thank you. Well, I'm looking forward to that Connex meeting today, so it's very exciting. For folks who are listening who may not know, the state provided us with some large Connex containers with materials that will be important for if we have a disaster. And the Port of Tillamook Bay and the Near Space and the airport are all partnering with us to be a distribution site, a distribution center, a place where the state can bring in supplies if we have a disaster and we're isolated, and also can move out supplies to local areas, to other areas on the coast in that situation. If you remember back to the 2007 storm, that was extreme. If you lived here, you definitely remember it. And there were isolated communities, so North County was completely isolated by landslides, etc. So that this plan would be able to bring in supplies to Tillamook, pick supplies up there at Tillamook, and move them to isolated areas. And so it's very exciting, and there's a lot more to it than that. But I'm excited to go to that training today. A couple of things. One, I want to thank, as we come out of Memorial Day weekend, there was a fabulous Memorial Day traveling memorial exhibit for Oregon soldiers here visiting Tillamook over the weekend. I want to thank Tillamook City Councilor Doug Henson and Tura and anyone else who helped bring that exhibit here and helped fund the expenses of the exhibit. It was really very moving. It was the first time it had been in Tillamook. I was super grateful to everybody who worked to bring it here, and it was very meaningful. It was a particularly meaningful way to think about Memorial Day and everything that it means, and so I'm grateful for that. So thank you. And I want to mention that today we have our first hearing for the short-term rental ordinance revision. There's a lot of public interest in this for folks who have short-term rentals or are impacted by short-term rentals. So I just want to let the community know that this is the first hearing. It will be out at the Port of Tillamook Bay. It's this evening from 5:30 to 8. And we've received hundreds of public comments, and we're interested if people want to come and give public comment tonight. We're certainly interested in hearing people's comments, and I just want to talk for a second about the reason for it, because it's a really complicated issue. We are a community that's always had short-term rentals and embrace them in the sense that people buy a second home here and they rent it out short term in order to be able to help pay their mortgage, and then they retire here and they're part of our community and they come and go and they use their houses and become part of our neighborhoods, and all of that is wonderful, and we totally support that. It's changed because there are people who are investing in houses in residential neighborhoods strictly for business. There are corporations, and not just here, but all over the place. There are corporations investing in housing in residential neighborhoods and operating them as businesses. And so it's changed what the experience of people who live full-time in the neighborhoods. They're in some neighborhoods, obviously not all, they're just overrun by visitors. And not all of the visitors are respectful. And so we've talked to many, many people who are negatively impacted by short-term rentals in their neighborhoods, and that it's really changed their quality of life. They don't know their neighbors anymore. Their neighbors are transient, and they're noisy, and they park everywhere, and they leave their trash, etc. So we're dependent on transient lodging tax revenue for projects and important things like roads, and so all of those things are at play at the same time. And so we're trying to thread the needle to find some balance so that we can protect the integrity of neighborhoods for full-time residents and protect property rights for folks who have second homes, etc. So we're really, all of those things are important, and we're really trying to move forward and find some balance, because what was happening quickly is that we were getting out of balance with the influx of people investing in homes on the coast to run them as businesses. So that's what's up with that hearing today, and I'm interested to hear what people have to say and see what's happening moving forward. What we're considering is a revision of our ordinance. So the other thing I want to mention is you may have seen or heard that CARES public service announcement or press release about developing new housing for homeless folks. And I'm just going to say a few words about this because it's very exciting. Very exciting. We've all been talking for a couple of years about what are we going to do for homeless people? What are we going to do about the homeless people when, it's just really only a couple of years ago that we started to have a huge influx of homeless people in downtown Tillamook, which isn't to say that we haven't always had homeless people in Tillamook County, but they used to be more in the forest and, in campers and campsites and stuff like that. It's just in the last couple of years that we have people living on the street in downtown Tillamook, and so it's become really visible, and everybody's worried about it. So there's a lot of work going on to address the issue of homelessness, and CARE has been working really hard on it, and they've gotten a grant, and there's a plan for developing some homeless shelters in Tillamook adjacent to the CARE property on county property where homeless people are currently encamped. Rather than having them just camping there, there are going to be some shelters, and there will be programs, and so it's really, I'm just barely touching on it, but you can look up the CARE press release, and maybe Commissioner Scar will talk about it more, but it's really very heartening to see real action happening in that area where we have been talking and thinking and hearing other people talk about, well, what are we going to do about this problem? So here we are moving into the action phase, and I'm really very gratified that we're in that place. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ball. I think you hit on the two, critical things that are happening in our community this week. The first one being the short-term rental hearing, and I do want to say just a couple words about that. I think Commissioner Bell did a great job of sort of laying out the why we're doing the work that we're doing. I want to acknowledge the Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee that has been meeting for the last 16 months to really learn about the issues related to short-term rentals and to try to craft that sort of threading of the needle that Commissioner Bell talked about. There are two things that are happening, and I think that they're kind of getting merged into one, and so I want to kind of clarify just a little bit. One of them is the adjustments to the short-term rental ordinance, which is what the hearing is about tonight, as well as what the second hearing will be about, and I think that one is on June the 13th. It's been June the 13th, there will be a second hearing for the ordinance itself. And the ordinance has the language as to how we regulate short-term rentals, how many parking spaces they need to have, how many bedrooms they have, and what that means for occupancy, what's required of the trash, just some very nutsy-boltsy regulatory pieces. And that's what the hearing will be talking about tonight is that ordinance. And the ordinance language is posted on the Community Development webpage. I'm sure it's also linked to the hearing on the main calendar for the county. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight, and again on the 13th of June. The second piece that is in play that is tied to this is we currently have a pause on issuing short-term rental licenses, and that pause is due to expire at the end of June. And we will be talking about the terms under which we will be ending that pause. But that's actually going to be done with a board order at a commissioner's board meeting. So while these two are linked together, the hearing tonight and the hearing on the 13th are about the language in the ordinance. They are about, did we hear the community livability concerns, and did we address them through regulatory language? So that's the big focus on the hearing. And we will take public comment, and if people are commenting on lifting the pause, that's fine. We will hear that comment as well. But there will be another process that talks about lifting the pause that will occur at commissioner meetings, specifically around a board order, which will lift the pause because it was a board order that put the pause into place. So just to kind of begin to tease those apart a little bit, because while they are connected, there are two different processes at play. One is the ordinance itself, and then the other is a board order. And then the second thing to follow up on quickly will be the shelter location for those experiencing homelessness that CARE is working on, and there is a presentation at the beginning of the Board of Commissioners meeting this Wednesday that will lay out the model that they will use for this shelter. This is a model that's being used in many different areas across the state as well as across the nation. So they've done their work to find out what is the best practice model and how is it being implemented, and then to get grant funding to bring that model here. So I just encourage anyone who has questions, if you're able to join us for the Board of Commissioners meeting on Wednesday, they will be doing a presentation. If you're not able to join us at that time, as always, TCTV online, Jane Scott will be videoing our meeting, and that recording will be available at a time that you're available if you want to learn more. So thank you so much, Commissioner Bell, for bringing those two things up. And I bet I have a really short report when it gets to me. Okay, Commissioner Yamamoto, are you ready?
I'm always ready. Boy, there's so much going on in Tillamook County right now. And I apologize. I have not been available for the past two community updates. I've been doing a lot of traveling. So 2 weeks ago, I was in St. George, Utah for the NACO, the National Association of Counties, WIR, Western Interstate Region meeting, again in St. George, Utah. It was a great meeting. Just so everyone knows, our own Judge Dan Joyce from Malheur County, Oregon, for the past year has been president of WIR, Western Interstate Region. He did a great job, and it was so great to have someone from Oregon as president of Western Interstate Region, it was great to see him there. A lot happened. So the first person that I met when I showed up at the conference was Brett Mattson, our legislative aide for NACO. And so I told him that why I was there and why I was going to be in Austin in July. That's NACO's annual meeting. And I told him I was bringing our BIOP resolution, our No Fisheries FEMA BIOP resolution, back to NACO to renew it. It has to be renewed every year as a resolution. And he looked at me and he said, well, Dave, you have passed this BIOP resolution 3 times already. This will be your 4th time. And as I recall, every time it was brought to one of our steering committees, it passed unanimously. Is that right? And I said, yes, it is. He said, well, I'm not sure you need to continue to come back every year to renew this BIOP resolution. Why don't you consider making this, instead of a resolution, a platform for NACO? Don't know how that works. We're looking into it as we speak. But if we can get it passed as a platform for NACO, then it's a permanent part of what NACO talks about on a regular basis with our federal legislators. It sort of elevates the resolution to a platform item. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to be discussing that at our June AOC meeting. And so I think we're making some real progress. And we're talking about the BIOP very quickly. We have had, since the meeting, and I appreciate all the people that showed up at the FEMA meeting at the Port of Tillamook Bay Officers Mess. God, this was 6 weeks ago or so. We had over 150 people in the room. Not one of them spoke in favor of the FEMA BIOP. and they all had some very specific questions, which put a lot of pressure on FEMA. They know there's a problem. Our federal legislators absolutely paid attention to that meeting. We got a letter a combined letter from Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley, which was sent to FEMA asking for a 30-day extension and explaining how difficult this was going to be for 31 of 36 Oregon counties. And unfortunately, Tillamook County is at the top of that list when it comes to damage that's going to be happening. At the same time, I got a call from Congresswoman Bonamici right after she had a phone call with FEMA, and my understanding in talking with one of her aides that they had never seen Congresswoman Bonamici so animated in a phone call with the director of an agency at the federal level. So we do appreciate that very much. Just a couple of weeks ago, Congresswoman Bonamici followed that up with a letter to FEMA, and her letter was absolutely correct. At the same time, we have never had buy-in from the state on our opposition to the NOAA Fisheries FEMA BiOp. It just so happens that the Department of Justice sent a letter to FEMA. It was like a 4-page letter explaining all of the issues that they see with the BiOp, how this is going to affect Oregon communities and counties and the people of the state of Oregon. So that was terrific to see also. So we're making a little bit of progress on this FEMA BiOp, and where it goes, I don't know. But again, I appreciate everyone showing up at that meeting. That was kind of instrumental in making sure that people understood what the problems were with this NOAA Fisheries FEMA BiOp, and it has paid off. So again, I want to thank everyone. Also at EELU, at WIR, I'm a member of EELU, Environment, Energy, and Land Use Steering Committee, and they had a meeting. We also had a tour of the water systems in basically a high desert in southern Utah, and how we went to a diversion dam, and then a couple of areas where they stored water for drinking water for the area, and one of them was really amazing. You could see this big lake that they formed, but the area they put the lake was very specific. It had a certain type of rock formation under the lake, and so they keep pumping water from the Virgin River, although they can only pump so much water, so they have to be very careful. They have endangered species there. Their endangered species are a little different than we have here on the Oregon coast. They're concerned about suckerfish and minnows, but endangered species are endangered species wherever you go. So they have to be very careful about the amount of water that they take. But this one lake that they store water in has this geological formation under it where the water actually percolates down very quickly, and it fills up this underground reservoir, which they can pump out of in times of drought. So their water systems in southern Utah are quite amazing. They really are. And so it was great to see that. Also attended a presentation on precision ag and precision timber. So this goes into the broadband issues, where high-speed internet is becoming very, very important, not only for people and kids to do distance learning, people for virtual doctor's appointments, but precision ag, and that's one of the reasons that the Tillamook County Creamery Association is so supportive of our efforts to bring high-speed internet to Tillamook County. Precision ag is something that needs absolutely high-speed internet, because not only do you have to download things very quickly, but you also have to upload tons of data that's collected for precision ag. And therein lies the problem with a lot of our internet systems today. Your download speeds can be pretty quick, but your upload speeds are like a fifth or a sixth of what your download speeds are. So it's very important that we have appropriate upload speeds. That's why fiber is so important for rural counties. Again, the number one economic development tool that any rural area can have is true high-speed internet. So we keep working on that on a regular basis. Last Tuesday, I apologize for not being here, but I had an OPAC meeting, Ocean Policy Advisory Council meeting. And of course, we were looking at the Territorial Sea Plan Part 4, which is basically undersea cables. And I know everyone knows that we have a lot of cables that land here in Tillamook County from across the Pacific, Asia, places like that, New Zealand, Australia. And this is important. So with Tillamook County, of all Oregon coastal counties, Tillamook County has landed more trans-Pacific fiber cables in Tillamook County than all the rest of the coastal counties combined. And that's, again, a terrific economic development tool. You can't have high-speed internet without cables. And this is not just a regional issue. This is a worldwide issue. That's why we're able to communicate as a world at the speed of light using fiber. So that was a very interesting issue that we discussed. There are those that really don't want cables landed. They feel that it's a danger to marine species and things of that nature. But these cables, at least in the 3-mile territorial sea, are all buried under the seafloor. So there really aren't any issues with endangering species of fish that live on the bottom of the ocean. So again, it's good that we're able to speak about those things to OPAC members, which is great. The last thing I want to talk about is, I believe this was last Monday. It's hard for me to keep all of these things straight, but we had a Tillamook Working Lands and Waters cooperative tour for county commissioners from across the state. And it was a great tour. Everyone enjoyed it. We started at the Port of Garibaldi. Mike Saindon, the port manager, took us on a tour of all the great things that are happening at the Port of Garibaldi, and it's amazing the things that are happening. So we continue to work on that. We took them up on a timber harvest, a working timber harvest, as well as a local dairy in North County. So these tours are greatly appreciated. We had representatives from Senator Wyden's office and Congresswoman Bonamici's office with us on the tour. So it was a great tour and really helpful. All the commissioners that were on the tour from other areas of Oregon really get a lot out of these tours that we do. One other thing I want to talk about very quickly is the legislature. What's happening or not happening in the legislature. The R's are opposed to some what they term to be very egregious bills, and the only power that they have is to walk out, not allow business to happen. Honestly, there are a lot of bills that I would like to see just go away, but there are also some bills that are very important to the state of Oregon, and I want to discuss two of them. One of them is HB 3201. It's a broadband bill. Oregon is eligible for up to $700 million in broadband money from the federal government, but we have to meet the federal government's minimum standards. That's what HB 3201 does. It puts in statute the minimum standards or greater that Oregon needs in place in order to be a participant to receive upwards of $700 million from the federal government. This one is just tied up right now, and so we don't know what's going to happen with that bill. To me, it's a very important bill, again, for the economic development potential for rural Oregon. The other one is SB 85, the CAFO bill, Confined Animal Feeding Operations. So I know that the Creamery has been involved with this, Oregon Cattlemen's Association has been involved, Oregon Farm Bureau, as well as the Oregon Dairy Farmers Association. I have been testifying repeatedly on CAFO bills over the years. This bill is ready to go. It's now in Ways and Means. Doesn't take a lot of money, but it does put some additional restrictions on confined animal feeding operations. It's much watered down from the original versions. And God, I think we're at the -8s amendments now. But right now, again, it is sitting in Ways and Means. I would prefer this bill not even pass. But as it stands today, I think it might be something that we'd be able to live with. So again, there's just a lot going on. We don't know what's going to happen with the legislature coming forward. We're just going to have to wait and see. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate the updates on the legislative front. I think there definitely is a lot happening there, and we do have our fingers crossed. There are many bills beyond the ones that Commissioner Yamamoto talked about relating to housing, relating to mental health, relating to public health. There's just a lot going on that we really need to have our legislature come back and act on. So fingers crossed that they can find a way to work together to get those very important bills passed, as well as the establishment of the budget. There are many bills sitting in Ways and Means, which can't be passed, and we can't have funding for programs that are much needed until they come together. So this is our hope that they can find a way to do that, because it does impact the counties in a very significant way, because we have many mandates that come from the state legislature, and the funding in the budget of the state comes to us for some of those to help us. So we need them to get back to work. Okay. Many of the things I was going to talk about have been talked about today, so I am going to shift gears to the budget, because that is another hearing that is coming up that I think people may have some interest in, and it will be on Monday, June the 5th, so it'll be before our next radio conversation, so I just wanted to highlight that for people. On June the 5th at 1 p.m., the Budget Committee will come back together to continue our deliberations. The key thing that I would like to bring up at this point is that the budget at this point is a deficit budget. So I know there's been a lot of budget conversation, and I want to just focus in on what I think is the really key piece for people in our community to begin to wrap their heads around and understand, is that our budget relies on two main income sources. The first one is property taxes. And as you know, as a property tax, if you pay property taxes, they are capped at their growth at 3% per year. So our growth of property tax revenue is limited. We actually end up at about 4% per year in our growth based on new development that's partnered with existing properties and their tax growth. So about 4%. The other piece that we rely on in Tillamook County to help us, because we have outpaced our property tax revenue in terms of what it costs us to provide mandatory services for the county. We've outpaced property taxes. If that was all we had, we would not make it. So we have been fortunate to have timber revenue for many years that has helped us to balance our budget, that has provided the additional revenue needed to keep us in the line with providing our mandatory and some additional services to the county. As we look at our budget coming out of COVID, and we look at what has happened with the increases of inflation, our budget now, even with our property taxes and our timber revenue, doesn't look like it is enough to pay for the services that we all receive as county members. Now, timber revenue fluctuates. We could have a great timber year and we could end up okay. Or we could have the same timber type of year that we've had the last year and we could end up in the hole. So this is a really important budget hearing for us. It's a really important budget hearing for all of you to understand that as we are currently set up, we are expected to need to use about $2 million from county savings in order to balance our budget. This is a scary place for us to be. If timber revenues stayed down as they were last year, we have 2.5 years perhaps before we use the savings that the county has. So this is a difficult time, it's a challenging time, and it could, if timber revenues are fabulous, not be so difficult and not be so challenging. But we are tasked with creating a budget that is fiscally smart and will preserve our county's stability for our services into the future. So I just want to kind of let people know that's the context in which our budget is being built. We are trying very hard to find a way to not be reliant on the fluctuating timber, but that just is how we're built. So that's the budget conversation. We will be returning to it at 1 p.m. on June the 5th, and just encourage people to be aware that that we have some potentially difficult roads ahead of us as a county in determining what services are crucial, which ones are mandatory, and how we will walk that walk. We're not alone. There are about half of the counties in the state of Oregon that have outpaced their property tax revenues. Unfortunately, property tax and how that is regulated is done by the state of Oregon. And so we do not have a way to change our base property tax other than to go for a levy, which you are familiar with. We've done that for the library. We've done that for veterans. So that's the only way we can increase our tax revenue. So it's just, again, important, I think, as we look to our future, that as a county, as residents of our county, we become familiar with what our property tax structure is and how we will sustain the services that are so important to all of us into our future. Okay, so that's budget. Again, I think the majority of other things have been touched on, so I'm going to move us on to the cities today. City of Manzanita, do we have Mayor Deb Simmons with us today?
I'm here, Commissioner Starr. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Good morning.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was not here last week, but we have a lot to make up for here. We had a busy weekend. There's a Planning Commission meeting today at 10 o'clock, and that is a Zoom meeting. We're also doing a budget meeting on Friday, June 2nd at 10 o'clock, which is also Zoom. There's a code enforcement officer posting that is on the website, and that is a public works position, so we'd like people who are interested to check that out. Mayor's Mondays at the library will be happening again on June 5th and the 19th at 10:30. Again, those are casual chats. And last, the Citizen of the Year will be announced at the June 7th council meeting. So thank you for your time, and have a good week.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on. Rockaway Beach was not able to be with us today, so we'll head right on down to Garibaldi. Mayor Hall, are you with us this morning?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can. Good morning.
Good morning. The city of Garibaldi is going to be holding a town hall meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, May 31st at 5:30 p.m. at the Garibaldi City Hall Community Room. We have a lot of important issues to discuss with the residents of Garibaldi regarding the city's current financial status, our progress on the outstanding budget audit. We have a backlog of city maintenance and upgrades that we need to discuss. Also, there's a proposed water and sewer rate increase that we'd like to discuss with folks. And also, we're going to give an update on our recruitment for a new city manager. So, residents of Garibaldi, if you hear me, we'd like to hear from you tomorrow at the town hall meeting, again at City Hall at 5:30 p.m. That's all that I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Local government works best with participation, so I do hope the residents of the city of Garibaldi will come out tomorrow evening and hear what's happening in your city and get involved.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on. Bay City. Do we have Mayor David McCall with us this morning?
Yes, good morning. I am here.
Good morning.
Yeah, sorry, just dialing in differently this week. I'd just like to announce that we opened up our city campground over the weekend and had a couple families who joined us and stayed there. Really good to see people back with the tents in that campground. And also, we will be having a hopefully very short budget meeting tomorrow evening. That's the 31st at 5 o'clock. Either in City Hall or you can dial in online, and the dial-in information is available on the city's website. Thank you. That's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the city of Tillamook. Do we have City Manager Nathan George with us today?
Good morning, Commissioner. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning. I can.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, I do. The Streets Division and Public Works Department, Streets Division is preparing for the annual June Dairy Parade, which is the last Saturday of June in the city of Tillamook. They're prepping staging areas, signage, barricades, and manpower. They're also completing the cleaning of bioswales downtown. This is a Chamber of Commerce event that the City of Tillamook supports by assisting in various ways, including labor, funding, signage, and so many other ways. Our sewer division is preparing for an upcoming screw press installation. It'll still be about a year out. The new screw press that the City Council approved earlier this month will essentially dewater all treated sludge before it's hauled to landfill. This will save a significant amount of money, as a majority of the current weight being hauled is water. The Water Treatment Division is finishing work on a recently installed pressure pump, and our Water Distribution Division is finishing a meter installation and water leak repairs as well. The Public Works Department is hiring for a seasonal position in the Streets Division. Please visit our website and Facebook page for more details on how to apply. If you have any questions or maintenance requests within the City of Tillamook, please email our Public Works Department at publicworks@tillamookor.gov. Inquiries are addressed as they are received. Fun fact, did you know that the east and west routes are even numbers and north and south routes are odd numbers? In the Tillamook Police Department, our school resource officer Olson accepted a donation from the Tillamook High School charity drive for our annual Shop with Coffee event. I want to say thank you to Tillamook High School for your generous donation. Don't forget that the Tillamook High School graduation is this coming Friday, this Friday, June 2nd. There will be a procession from the Tillamook People's Utility District to the Tillamook High School. Please see announcements from the Tillamook High School for further details about graduation details. And our police department will be helping with graduation to ensure everyone in attendance has a safe and good time. The police department is actively working on ensuring we are up to date on all training needs and requirements. Sergeant Harrell is setting up the DEI, which is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion training for all departments and employees. The Tillamook Police Department, along with the Tillamook County Sheriff's Office and Oregon State Police, assisted in escorting the Oregon Veterans Memorial Wall into town and stopping at the 2nd Street Plaza. Thank you to Councilor Doug Henson for getting this set up for our community. And the next regular council meeting will be this coming Monday, June 5th at 7 p.m. We invite all citizens to attend, and you may contact us with any questions. That's all I have, Commissioner. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on to South County. Doug Olson.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
I think summer is here. We had a lot of people in town over the 3-day weekend. Looks like some of them are still here. Wonderful weather, so summer has definitely started. We're moving towards our annual events throughout Tillamook County and South County in particular, including Clover's Day. That's well underway in the planning, and also Dory Days. And this will be, I believe, the 64th or 65th annual Dory Days, which is now part of Oregon Heritage Traditions, which includes some pretty significant events across Oregon, including the Pendleton Roundup, the Portland Rose Festival, the Oregon State Fair, and our Little Dory Days is among those called out as a tradition in Oregon. So it's well underway. We'll have it for sure third weekend in July. The only other thing I would mention is over the weekend there seemed to be an extraordinary amount of sirens and call-outs of emergency first responders. I don't know what all for what, but boy, it was a busy, busy weekend, and I think if you'll hear from the sheriff at some point or fire personnel, they'll tell you it was probably a very difficult weekend with a lot of people. I can think there were at least a dozen sirens over the 3-day weekend. It's not a good sign, but I guess it is what it is. So with that, Commissioner, thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, that wraps up our reports for today. So I'd like to thank KTIL for broadcasting and everyone for attending. We will adjourn this meeting at 8:48 a.m. Thank you.